Name. Meeting and agenda. Brazos County Court. The Commissioners Court of Brazos County will meet in regular session on June 3rd, 2025 at 10 a.m. In the Commissioners Courtroom in the Brazos County Administration Building, 200 South Texas Avenue, Suite 106, Bryan, Texas, 77803. The meeting may be watched live on YouTube and the Brazos County YouTube channel. So for number one, we'll have the invocation and pledge of allegiance, and Commissioner Conderla will give us the prayer.
Lord, thank you for the opportunity to wake up this day, for our health, for our families. Thank you, Lord, for those that stand in the breach to protect us. Amen. And those that we lost this week. Thank you, Lord, for our men and women in our military, our first responders, all those people that look after us each day. Ask you, Lord, that we might remember to keep them in our prayers and their families in our prayers each day. Bless the meeting here today and all that are here. Lord, help us to grow closer to you so that we may be closer to each other in you. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. So we'll call for citizens' input.
Commissioner Watson, can you move your mic a little closer to your mouth?
Okay, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Okay.
Is it on? It is.
Okay, we'll call for citizens' input. I'm sorry, I need to take a minute. So these that are numbered here, are they going to talk now?
Yes.
Okay.
We have several for number 2.
All righty. Charles Mancuso.
Hello, my name is Charles Mancuso. I live on Mancuso Road. First thing, I am against the East Loop. I think it's the worst idea in the world. My son built a new house. He moved in it 5-6 months ago. They're going to take his house. It's 5 acres on family land and part of my land too. So it's a bad deal. We planted over 100 trees, and so now they want to take his land. So send it some other place. Send it further east, I guess. I'm here today, the Brazos County Health Department. My neighbor's been dumping their sewage waste on my property at a rapid rate in the last 2 or 3 months. I've called the health department. I've called the Brazos County Code Enforcement. I've called the Texas Commission on Environment Quality. Called the Texas Animal Health Commission, the sheriff's office, the constable. And all I get is one run around against the other. And I've been taking pictures every day for the last 45 days. Send them to the health department. They tell me that they've got to give him 30 days to begin repairing the sewage waste, which to me is totally impossible. Who wants their neighbor's sewage dumping on their property for 30 or 45 days? I kind of knew it was happening, but come to find out, his fill line runs on my property. Illegal, you shouldn't do it. So a couple of days ago, his 30 days was up. He's got the plan. They're going to start tomorrow to repair it. I got over 600 photos I've been sending to the health department. I met with them again yesterday. They can't write him a ticket. They can't give him a citation. They can't tell him to stop depositing his waste. Even though his sister lives 2 doors down, he'd go over to her house. She's a widow, but that's not going to happen. Oh, by the way, it's one of my cousins. Can you imagine that? Family land, family cousin. Okay. It's horrible. The cows walk in it, the cows drink it. I've got calves that are around it. It's not a good deal. A couple other problems I've got trailers going down the road before daylight. No lights, no brake lights, no running lights or anything. Let's do something about that. Oh, dress code, no shorts. How come with that? No shorts. Let them wear shorts. I mean, as long as they're not cut off or baggies or have holes in them, you know, why not? It's hot. Let's wear shorts. I like shorts. Speeders, tailgaters, aggressive drivers, one headlight, one tail light, no brake lights. We got a lot of that going on. No inspections. What do you expect? More and more. Dogs running loose in my pasture. People move to the country, they got an acre or two, and they think, hey, let's let them run in Mancuso's pasture. It looks nice and clean. I'm sure he doesn't mind if the dogs chase a few cows. I do mind, you know. Keep your dogs on your property. Don't let them run on my place. Excessive trash burning late at night. Why don't they burn during the day? They burn late at night. It stinks. It's nauseous. It's probably something that shouldn't be burned. I call the fire department. They come out. They never find it. Unbelievable. Okay? They should be given certain items they can burn and certain times to burn. Okay? Going back 30 years ago, I was given a citation because I had a trailer parked on my property. Is my time up? Yes. Oh, I don't get a warning? Okay, real quick. So I got a citation 30 years ago for having a trailer with my feet in it because the neighbor didn't like the trailer.
I guess your cousin's off the Christmas card list, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Steve Purcell?
Oh, it is. It is. Oh, hold on.
Good morning, Commissioners. Stephen Pearsall, Woodview Drive, Precinct 2. I was shocked by the silence at the end of John Polster's presentation last week. Your constituents have questions about the bond projects, but all we heard was praise from that the judge had for ITS. KBTX ran a story last week that Brazos County Commissioners say the Inner Loop East study may expand. I'd like to hear from you if the scope has changed. This Inner East Loop project has been sold to us on the large projected growth in the county. I've provided you a handout and want to talk about the population projections today. On page 1, at the first public meeting in November, the exhibit boards that were created by ITS and Quiddity displayed a projected 91% population growth by 2045. They didn't share on the exhibit board that the growth was based off 2010 population numbers. The 91% statistic, in my opinion, was presented for shock value to help justify the need for a project. At the second public meeting, the exhibit boards were updated to display that the county's population will nearly double between 2020 and 2060. This got me thinking, so I went straight to the source to see what I could find. On page 2 of your handout, I've plotted the data points from the 2022 state demographer population projections for Brazos County. This is the most current information available. The demographer provided 2 different migration scenarios. 1.0 migration scenario, which it states is recommended for near-term planning. That's the orange line on your chart. 2060 population, just over 458,000, which you may recognize from Quiddity's exhibit board. Then there's the 0.5 migration scenario, which it states is recommended for long-term planning. This is the blue line. 2060 population, just under 357,000. That's a difference of 101,500 people between the 2 scenarios, which is equal to 43% of Brazos County's 2020 population. The Inner East Loop is a long-term project. Per Mr. Polster last week, the MPO is in the business of planning 20 to 30 years out, and this project is in the out years of the MTP. That's long-term. It seems that the study team should be using the long-term planning number in their traffic and feasibility study. But as you've seen, Quiddity published the larger number on their exhibit board. The county also presented the larger number in the information video that ITS helped produce just a few days before the last meeting. But why? Is it a simple mistake, or is it simply to justify the project? Has anyone from the county checked the assumptions that are being used by the design team to make sure that the foundational data for the traffic analysis and feasibility study are accurate? Or are we trusting ITS to do that for us? In the MPO's 2050 mobility plan, they course corrected on their population projections. On the chart, you see that in 2024, the MPO projected nearly 35,000 fewer people in year 2050 than they had previously projected for year 2045. This is huge because the MPO came up with this project, but it seems now they're projecting slower growth than when they first proposed the project. I'm not a demographer and don't suspect you are either, but my simple research led me to question the validity of the information that's being provided to justify this project. On page 3, I've cited my sources so you can check for yourself. I hope you'll take this information and ask the hard questions to county staff, ITS, and Quiddity to make sure that misleading information is not being used to justify the project. Does 100,000 fewer people in the county in 2060 change the need for this loop? This is of interest to me and to many others, so I hope you'll get the answer and share it with us all publicly in the interest item section of the meeting very soon. I renew my request to pause this project, hold a workshop, and assess whether there's justification to move forward. Thank you.
Sharon Burt.
Good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
y'all? Great. I won't follow with what words he's used. We moved out to a place in Old Reliance. We did in Merker Road. 30 years ago in May, we bought the property. We live next door to Messina Hoff, great neighbors. I can't tell you how long we looked for property. This is our family property. Our kids grew up out there. We've done 4-H projects. My grandkids are now doing 4-H projects, and I found out in November, because my dad has been sick, found out through a friend that there was a meeting and had to rush to this meeting, and it's going to split my property behind my house and my tanks. So my property is going to be screwed up. There is nothing I can do. I did into Merker Road. I saw that Quiddity got their finalized report on the traffic deal the other day. And I can sit in my driveway and I can tell you how many cars come up and down Merker Road and Old Reliance Road. The problem with the roads, there is no way to get across to the bypass. There is no traffic on these roads that shows the need to travel behind people's property. These are country roads. Who is going to drive down Fitch? That's another how many miles out of the way to come down the new East Loop. They're going to come down my property where I'm not even going to feel comfortable leaving my grandkids at the barn to work with their animals, with their projects. You know the crime rate, what's going on right now in this town, in our county. And I sit here and hate to think of what's going to happen to the ballpark at Harvey, the homes that we have, everybody is comfortably living in. We know there's crime. But what's coming into this town from Houston, Waco, Dallas, the transport, I don't see the need for this. The bypass needs to be fixed. William J. Bryan needs to be fixed. And if you could get 2 lanes to turn off of 21, the backups are at the road. Backups are at the east bypass. And we're fixing to make a bigger mess. Who is going to come to this town if you're going to the games and leave and go around to 2818? Nobody. They're coming from Houston. They're coming from Austin. If they're coming from Austin, they're going 2818. Stop and think about it. I've read this. I listened to him last week, and it makes me sick to my stomach to think we don't even care enough about our people in this county. We have our business owners here. We contribute to this county and to the kids here. And there is no respect for a lot of the businesses here because this is what we want to do. I know growth. Growth is something we have grown on, but not at the cost of somebody else's lives. Thank y'all very much.
Beverly Greenwood.
Good morning. In March of 2020, a request for qualification for transportation program development and strategic planning went out from Brazos County, and by August of 2020, that spot was filled by Innovative Transportation Solutions. A contract was signed on August 4th of 2020, agreeing on a $10,000 a month rate. In that contract, it listed Mr. Claude Bud Elsom, a 34-year Denton County engineer, as the program management lead, having, quote, extensive experience in the design and analysis of highway systems, leading the technical team and offering unmatched resources for critical transportation projects. Mr. Elsom was also listed as a main point of contact for ITS, in addition to Mr. John Polster. Unfortunately, Mr. Elsom passed away in December of 2023. In July of 2022, I found the Transportation Road Improvement Program Workshop, where John Polster in detail describes how the TRIP bond will work, how the commissioners cannot advocate for the passing of the bond, and what the road projects will be that were handpicked by the entities that Mr. Polster again listed last week. This is the only presentation other than last week that I could find from ITS to the court. But at this time, Mr. Polster had worked for Brazos County for almost 2 whole years. In that workshop of July 2022, he states that he had been working on the bond program for about a year. So if that is the case, why did we pay him $10,000 a month? Or what did we pay him $10,000 a month to do from August of 2020 to the summer of 2021? Also in that meeting, Judge Peter gives in lengthy detail how a friend in another county told Judge Peters how they were getting so much money for road projects from TxDOT, and that it was all because of John Polster. ITS scored a perfect 100 on the qualification worksheet against one other bidder. Judge Peters also sat on that selection committee. Fast forward to June 11th, 2024, and without any discussion between commissioners, but one concerned citizen question, Brazos County gave Mr. Polster a raise from $10,000 a month to $15,000 a month. At this point, Brazos County had paid ITS almost $500,000 per the contract. Judge Peters said he helped pass the $100 million bond, and I think we can all agree now that after 6 months of public comments, that was anything but transparent. Judge Peters goes on to say in June of 2024, 4 years into the contract, that Mr. Polster's work, quote, has now begun. I can't imagine paying an employee $500,000 before the majority of their work has begun. How is this fiscally responsible? There was no discussion about the quality of his work, and his presentation last week certainly didn't show quality because he thinks the Inner East Loop is only going to cost $350 million for 20 miles of 4-lane highway with no infrastructure built and no right-of-way purchased. Then he is completely uninformed. And if that is the price Quiddity is projecting, then their competence should be questioned as well. On the June 2024 agenda, it includes that original contract that has Bud Elsom as the program manager and main contact, yet he died 6 months prior. That wasn't addressed in that pricing increase. In fact, nothing was discussed. And we saw repeat performance last week. Not a single question was posed to John Polster. In fact, Commissioner Watson, you admitted that it was an enormous amount of information. Yet, is he sending the court his monthly reports per his contract? Once again, I ask the court, pause the contract with Quiddity, reconsider the extension of an overpaid and undelivering consultant, and cancel the unwanted and unwarranted Inner East Loop. Thank you.
Adam Perdue.
If this helps at all, timer stopwatch. Okay. All right. So again, I want to reiterate before I go into my new rant today. We have a traffic study now. We have the beginnings of one, and it shows clearly that the reduction in traffic along 30 and 6 is going to be 200 to 300 cars each during the peak hour, which is basically nothing. This highway, the beginnings of the traffic study shows that there will be no traffic reduction that is worth speaking of, that is worth spending even the $13 million on the contract to study it. And that's why we've always asked since November that you pause this bigger contract and start the $200,000 to $300,000 or something more like that traffic study to see if it's even warranted to spend $13 million to study the whole thing, much less build it for well more than $350 million. Has anybody talked to you guys and walked you through this traffic study?
and told you whether or not and tried to defend this project. We have it. We have the data now. We have the models. And then, are we doing anything with it? But anyways, so this whole exercise since November has just been disheartening and aggravating. We've got nothing but lies, obfuscation, and dissembling when trying to ask anybody about this project. The worst example being the county lawyer getting up in the middle of the official proceedings here and telling us that the county contract and county design was not county business. But more typical of what we've gotten is later when he made the distinct point of saying that he was not the county lawyer, he's the county general counsel. And that's the majority of what we've gotten, missing the point in order to not discuss the actual points. And we see this mainly with Judge Peters. Instead of discussing or defending this project and telling us why it's actually needed, why he's put the county money at risk, why he's spending $13 million, he talks about transparency and mandates. He talks about transparency. We have a public meeting where the only private citizen was the recently elected Commissioner Condola. Everybody else with business before the court on this project. Yes, there's always been a map somewhere in the basement of the third annex, and that we could have always walked to see. Or if we'd ever accidentally typed in the right website address, we would have been able to see this map. We have a history in 2017. The only neighborhood that found out about this, however, is Forest Lakes. And we have public comments from back then, which are exactly the same as what we've gotten today. This project seems stupid, but I just need you to move it off of me. And the other one, that there is no transparency, there has been no discussion, and there has been no communication. Those are the two public comments from 2017. There is not a groundswell of support from all of this transparent process from the public in 2017 or in any time since. We're block walking now. We've got nobody who supports this project. People who are discouraged and think that we can't do anything about it. But it's y'all who can help us do something about it. A mandate is not when 24% of the people, of the voters in this county, vote aye on 8 different projects, 7 projects plus, right? The other 6, which have received no complaints. That is not a mandate for the 7th project, right? Dan Rudge is the only person I've gotten an honest comment from so far. At the very beginning, on the very first meeting, we leaned back and we drew in with a crayon. We said, this highway would look good here.
Kyle Greenwood.
Good morning.
Morning.
Last week we got a presentation from Mr. Polster. He spent a little over 30 minutes. Of that 30 minutes, he spent nearly the first 15 minutes essentially relitigating the trip bond election from 2022. I find it rather interesting that we have a hired consultant who doesn't even live in Brazos County educating everybody on what people voted for and why. All the members of the court were residents here at the time. We don't need somebody from somewhere else coming to tell us what happened and why. The commissioner's responses at the end of the presentation also caused me to wonder how much time is spent between the commissioners discussing the transportation items, whether it's any of the projects that are going on or the future planned projects. From Commissioner Nettles' comments, it appears that he wasn't even aware that there was a monthly report being given, and if it is, it's not being disseminated amongst the court at all. Of his presentation, Mr. Polster spent 8 minutes discussing the Inner East Loop. He referred to it as a second-tier project, one to be done for the future. I would ask, if this is a second-tier project, why has it been prioritized over the Bush-Welborn project? at the end of, in the reporting after the trip bond election, that's the project that the judge said this is going to be the great thing. He went in detail talking about how he drove around with Commissioner Bugg and said, we got to have this. This is the most important project, Bush-Welborn Interchange. It's been put off for 3 years now. Why has it been put off over a priority project like Bush-Welborn? Further, Mr. Polster went on to say that since 2022, construction costs have increased by 70%. So I have here the program list, and it lists the project total for the Inner East Loop at $305 million. And in his presentation, he said estimated cost would be $350 million. If that were accurate, that would only be a 15% increase when he had just told us that construction costs have gone up over 70%. And then he further went on to say that, oh, this is just going to happen in the future, but estimated cost will only be 350%. Why was he allowed to make that kind of a claim and not be challenged by anybody on the court? Why didn't anybody question that? I would also say, why hasn't the court responded to the 2 written requests that were submitted asking for the comment period from the second set of alignments to be extended? Why hasn't the court responded to the 2 written requests asking for the Inner East Loop to be made an agenda item for public discussion on the record? Why hasn't the court responded to 2 written requests asking that the contract be paused so that we could have a public discussion about the issue? After all, this is a second-tier project, right? It's not a priority that we have to get done. Why are we pushing so hard on this second-tier project? Why won't the court consider pausing the contract? Further, I would say, why has the court continued to stonewall its citizens and refuse to address our concerns or answer any of the questions that we've posed? Why was the Inner East Loop hidden from public view? Why didn't the judge speak about the Inner East Loop prior to the trip bond election when he spoke about everything else? Why didn't the court or anybody else do anything to educate the voters?
Thank you. William Baxter.
Good morning, Commissioners, fellow citizens. My name is Will Baxter, and I am a Brazos County landowner in Precinct 1. While my property is not affected, I am here today to support those affected and speak in opposition of this East Loop. Bit about me first. I'm a retired Navy captain, served 29 years in defense of this great nation. When it came time to move back home, my wife and I chose College Station. We considered no other place in the great state of Texas. We're both Aggies with an Aggie son, and this is where we came. We came back because we liked a small town appeal while having access to some city amenities. We live in the country and are absolutely living our Texas dream. In any event, I'm here to voice my opposition of the East Loop for the following reasons. One, I don't believe the bond granted the county access to build a loop. I think most people imagined a widened Highway 6 and a widened east-west thoroughfare, perhaps Boonville Road or William J. Bryan. Although I don't think William J. Bryan is a good example of a sound construction project. The struggle is Highway 6 in the afternoon in that east-west access. The East Loop is not going to alleviate the local traffic, which is the preponderance of the traffic at peak hours. I studied civil engineering in college, and I learned you complete a project and then you study the effects of that project. So logically, widen Highway 6 and then study the effects of that project. And thirdly, it's already been mentioned, but I'll hammer it again. The U.S. population is in a decline, and the Texas housing market is cooling off. Expecting future growth with a declining population isn't sound. In my opinion, I think this is a land grab with the intent of growing BCS in order to increase the tax base. Back to my original point, I moved back here for the small town appeal. We don't need BCS to become another Allen and McKinney or Conroe in the Woodlands. keep the country country. Thank you very much.
Ann Molitor. Ann? Montiel, how do you say that?
Molitor.
Molitor. Molitor.
All right. Y'all have to forgive me, I'm a little nervous. Sometimes my voice shakes, so if that happens or if I cry, you'll have to bear with me. I sometimes do that when I speak the truth. But I wanted to start this morning. Howdy, good morning. My name's April Ann Molitor. My family owns Brushy Creek Outdoors. We ranch deer and cattle just off of South Highway 30. And I want to start it with reading y'all this plaque. So this plaque is something that my grandpa has in his office. So anybody who comes and does business with him gets to look at this. And he wrote on the back for me that his dad wrote this when he was, it's a poem, when he was teaching prisoners to cut hair at the Brazos area unit. So for Glenn Molitor, who was born on April 26, 1952, you got it from your father. It was all I had to give, so it's yours to use and cherish for as long as you live. If you lose the watch I gave you, it can always be replaced. But a black mark on your name, son, will never be erased. It was clean the day you took it, and a worthy name to bear. When I got it from my father, there was no dishonor there. Make sure you guard it wisely after all is said and done. You'll be glad the name is spotless when you give it to your son. And y'all's names up here and some names that we've been throwing around, Judge Peters and John Polsters. I'm going to pray that the Lord blesses your names for the sons if you pass it down to your sons. But there's a lot of big names that have been thrown around on the Commissioner's Court. And I was reminded actually this morning of the Disney movie A Bug's Life. Have y'all seen that one? It's about an oppressed group of ants that are lorded over by a bunch of grasshoppers. And there's one smart-ass ant that starts wising up to it, right? And then there's a scene where the grasshoppers are at their bar, and one of the grasshopper minions pipes up, oh, who cares about that one little ant, right? It's just one ant. And the leader grasshopper stands up and goes, yeah, it's just one ant. Let me throw this at you. Did that hurt, this piece of grain? What about this one? And then he knocks the stopper off of the grain bottle, and all those minions get washed in the grain. And he says, listen here, one ant might be one thing, but there's thousands of them and few of us, right? So if we've got a commissioner's court and leadership that are a bunch of nasty grasshoppers, what are they going to do about a few old ants? Well, hold on until we start to organize, right? So a little bit of my family history. Fritz and Frida for sure immigrated from Germany. She was a mail order bride when they took her up into the piney woods after the Port of Galveston. She didn't speak any English, but she raised 6 sons. Oh, yep, sorry. Raised 6 sons, my ancestors being one of them. They actually started with land in Carls, Texas, but that was condemned for the coal plant. Now the power line that runs through our property actually connects that coal plant with the rest of the energy that's needed. So we bought 100 acres and 138 acres in 1980. I'm just trying to throw out big ticket names. Y'all forgive me if I'm nervous. My grandpa started also a roofing company, a foam roofing company y'all might be familiar with, Brazos urethane, and that put a lot of the roofs on the A&M buildings, for example. My grandpa Hubert works as a township barber, and he heard about the property that we now own from cutting Stan Stevens' hair, who his wife, the McCulley family, had a whole lot of land in the area. And so my ancestor was the first to learn that they were selling property north of South Highway 30, and that's how we got our first piece of it. About 1996, my grandma told me that we bought the rest of the New Place barn in the east area there, and she remembers that it was 1996 because my mama was big old pregnant with me, and I was born September 20th, 1996. Grandpa's ranched cattle there all his life. Black Baldy is what he started us out with. He does Brahmins now with Hereford bulls. When I was 1 year old, he gave me Bridget, a cow, and thank you. But if anybody else has any questions, I'd love to talk to y'all about my poster. I did this about an hour and a half this morning. with my family's photos. So,
Commissioners, I would just like to say a comment real quick. My name's Allison Limblade. I'm Assistant General Counsel. I just want to remind the speakers during all your public comments that the court is providing the time for you to speak, but it's not to insult the honesty or integrity of the court or any members or the court as a general. So please keep your comments accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda, and is the proclamation number 25-025, proclaiming the month of June as Elder Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. We do have a proclamation here. And is there anyone here with the Elder Abuse Department? Let's see, is there Charla or Makisha or Nikki Parker? Okay. So proclamation, Elder Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. Whereas older adults and people with disabilities of diverse background contribute to the well-being of this city by working, giving, volunteering, and actively preserving customs, rituals, and traditions. And whereas as we age, we build momentum by accumulating knowledge, experience, insight, and wisdom that can be shared to enrich our community. And whereas abuse of older adults and people with disabilities is a community concern affecting thousands of people across Texas. And whereas there are 123,852 reports of abuse of older adults and people with disabilities in Texas in 2024, and whereas abuse against older adults and people with disabilities is grossly underreported because of social stigma, embarrassment, and fear, and whereas adult abuse affects men and women of all income and ability levels, all cultural and ethnic backgrounds, and in all communities. And whereas elder abuse is everyone's business, it's important to strengthen our efforts to prevent, report, and address elder abuse. Now, therefore, the Commissioners Court of Brazos County, in recognition thereof, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2025 Elder Abuse Awareness Month. In Brazos County, Texas, urge all residents to work together to reduce abuse and neglect of older adults and people with disabilities. So, thank you so much. They don't want to say anything. Okay, so we need to do, I guess, pictures, and we'll need to get this more signatures, so you won't be able to take this with you. So, pictures. So I'm gonna get this one. So if y'all get in the middle. Thank you. So, all right, thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you
And
all
I'll
for
need
your
this
work.
back, and we'll get back to you. We'll let you know so we get the signatures. Okay, so I need a motion. So I need a motion.
Motion to approve?
Yeah,
Second.
motion to approve, yes. It has, just any discussion on this?
No, thank you for the work you do.
Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. The motion is approved. Thank you so much. And this is so important. All righty, item number 4. Approval requested by Brazos County Emergency Services, District 1, for a 30-day extension to be no later than July 1st, 2025, for submission of the annual financial audit report.
I move for approval.
Second.
It has been moved. Is any discussion? It has been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Aye. So she said aye. Hearing none, motion is approved. Item number 5, request approval to wire transfer up to $20,898,134.27 to Health and Human Service Commission's HHSC for Comprehensive Hospital Increased Reimbursement Program for the first half of Year 5, State Fiscal Year 2026, for the participating hospitals using funding from the Brazos County Local Providers Participation Fund.
Move for approval.
Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Item number 6, approval of the Treasurer's Report for March 2025 and quarter ending March 31st, 2025.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Item number 7, approval requested from the Sheriff's Department to renew the agreement with the LESCO program as administered by the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Move for approval.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing opposed? None. Motion is approved. Number 8, approval of the non-financial memorandum of an understanding, MOU, between the Brazos County Detention Center and Brazos Valley Council of Governments Workforce Solutions Brazos Valley Board Education and Literacy Program.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Item number 9, and we will have, I'm sorry, do I read the item first? Item number 9, approval of amendment number 2 for contract 22-144R, transportation planning for Brazos County with innovative transportation solution for additional annual renewal.
Move for approval.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, speak. Motion, yeah, motion for approval.
Okay,
I'm not going to second it.
Okay, all right,
so I need a second. I will second it.
Okay. So just for clarification, I know we have several people signed up for this, but in order to comply with the notice requirements of the Open Meetings Act, we want the discussion to be kept to the matter of the agenda item, which pertains to the approval of amendment number 2 of the ITS contract for additional annual renewals. It is not to extend into the subject of the East Loop. Thank you.
Okay, it has been moved in second in discussion. So we have,
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I've been against this East Loop thing from before I was even elected, and of course, I'm the new guy here. Only been here since January. I do have my business cards now, so I know I'm kind of halfway in the loop. Not East Loop, but in the loop. But I can't get excited about signing any additional transportation planning for Brazos County Innovative Transportation Solutions contract when I haven't read the contract. Every month, I've never gotten anything from Polster. Never seen the contract, and that's why I'm voting against it. I think it's ridiculous that we're kept in the dark on this. So, that's my comments.
we all have several comments from several citizens' input with question. Stephen Purcell?
Hey, good morning, Stephen Pearsall. So, yeah, will you guys be able to answer questions, or should we just go through, make all the comments and then allow them to answer?
My name is Ed Bull. I'm the Chief of Staff and also Legal Officer for this court and as well as the county. Questions can be asked, but they will be considered a comment. So this is, again, additional public comment on this agenda item. So if you have questions, ask your questions. It'll be considered as a comment of the court. If the court wants to adopt and ask any additional information of staff, then they will follow up.
All right, thank you. Stephen Pearsall, so I'd like to hear from the commissioners. It's already been stated this morning that ITS is supposed to provide you with monthly reports as well as monthly meetings with you. So I'd just like to hear from each of you, if you would, whether or not you've received those reports or participated in those meetings as it's stipulated in their contract. I agree with you, Commissioner Brown. The original contract should have been included as a supporting document with this agenda item. I think you'd find it rather interesting. So the original contract is not on the county's standard agreement for professional services. It looks like a contract that John Polster wrote himself. And so I'd ask the county if that's standard practice for an engineering firm to provide a contract instead of having the engineering firm sign the county's contract. Last week, Mr. Polster talked about what a good deal the county was getting on the Inner East Loop environmental clearance. He said that it was his job as the consultant to know how much things cost and that the environmental clearance should run 1% to 1.5% of construction cost. Based on the $350 million he threw out, that'd be $3.5 to $5.25 million. We're currently under contract with Quiddity for over $11 million.
Sir, you're outside the scope of the agenda item. If you move your comments back to the contract.
Okay, all right. So Mr. Polster should be representing the county and the constituents of the county. If we're paying 2 to 3 times more than what we should, that doesn't seem like a good value to the taxpayer. So I'd also like to know who from the county is requesting the contract to be renewed. It seems like the hard part of the contract's been done. The projects have been identified. The bond's been approved. Can the county not just manage the projects moving forward? In the presentation last week, most of the bond projects were listed as being completed next summer with the work that ITS is doing. So I'm curious why we need a 5-year contract extension. And then if you look at the scope of work that's in the contract relative to the scope of work that's in the RFQ that ITS responded to, there's a lot of extra items that were added in the contract. So I'm curious where those came from and if that was an effort by ITS to generate a long-term revenue stream. So I urge you not to extend the contract. If you think that the county needs additional professional services to continue the bond projects, then I'd advise you to issue a new RFQ and that you tailor it to the exact services that are needed. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't read the first name, but M. Sutherland?
Mike,
Is it
Mike Sutherland.
Mike? Okay,
Mike.
you know who it is. Oh, I know him. But I just couldn't read the penmanship.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Pardon me. Thank you, Commissioners. And I'm glad to be here today. And I'm speaking on item number 9. And thank you, Commissioner Brown, for your comments. I thank you for voting against that. And the reason you can't find the contract is because there's not a contract. I'm a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, and somebody else was the Navy guy. Anyway, and I spent 20 years in the military, flew helicopters in Vietnam. I've been on the Bryan City Council for 12 and a half years, and I'm 79. So I've got a little experience. So I'm not an attorney, but I was asked to look at item number 9, and I looked at it based on how I would look at it if I was on City Council. And the devil's always in the details. And this agenda item is really problematic because you're voting on a contract, but it's not listed on the agenda. You can't vote on the contract without showing it to the public. And there's misleading information in the RFQ quotation in the body of the agenda item. It notates there's a contract part that's not in the agenda. And what is referred to in the agenda is a response to a request for proposal. This is not a contract. So that document's missing. And so if you vote on it now, your vote's going to be undermined because you don't have all the information you need to make a decision on this. Like Commissioner Brown said, he's never seen the contract. And I say there's not a contract. So if you go back, so I look at the fundamentals. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? So if you go back and look at what was supposed to be approved as a contract on August of 2020. What was approved, there wasn't anything approved other than accepting the proposal made by ITS. There's no contract. And if the document you say that's a contract, it starts off by saying, this is a proposal, and it ends by saying, thank you for considering my proposal. It's signed by the county judge. However, he doesn't say he accepts it. He doesn't say anybody's approved it. There's no attorney approval. This is really a tough situation that you're in, because I think you got to go back and look through the whole thing before you make a decision. I'm glad it's been rejected now, because first of all, who's the contract supervisor? Where are your reports from the contract supervisor, I'm guessing it's the judge, that say this contract is in compliance? Nobody said that. Number two, there is no attorney review of any of these documents. The extension, the contract, nothing. Y'all are just hanging out there, because I think the problem I have is, in my opinion, the contract's not valid, so the payments made appear to be unauthorized. So I encourage you to reconsider this, like Commissioner Brown has already done, because if it's not a contract, you guys are liable for the money that you spent that's not authorized to be spent. Thank you very much.
Just one last comment. This agenda item reminds me of when Nancy Pelosi said, "Well, just sign it and we'll figure out what it does later." So.
Okay, Chris Barnes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Last week in the presentation to the court, Mr. Polster listed the tasks he performs for the county under the contract. So I think since this is a renewal of the contract, I think looking at what those tasks are is important. 9 times he said he coordinated something, 5 times he had meetings with various people, 13 times he offered to assist someone. In other words, the contract doesn't do any actual engineering, no surveying, no drawing of blueprints or schematics. There's no mention of any work being done that's not already in a current description of a current Brazos County employee. For comparison, I compared to the Brazos County engineer, who earns a salary of $140,000 a year, who coordinates acquisition of right-of-ways, manages construction of roads and bridges, ensures compliance with construction standards, safety regulations, and other relevant requirements, provides public information about road conditions and engineering-related matters, works with other county departments, government agencies, and the public. And while I've not met with the county engineer, Brazos County's been building roads and bridges for many, many years, and I think we can safely assume that they do an admirable job at what they do. The county also has a general superintendent, a right-of-way agent, a GIS coordinator, also who earn over $100,000 a year. And I believe these people do a great job at coordinating, meeting, and assisting, in addition to actually getting projects completed. Plus, I'm sure that they all have connections with TxDOT, which is one of his selling points for his contract. Our current employees are also 100% committed to only working for this county. According to the Cross Timber Gazette in October 2022, ITS clients include Denton County, Rockwall County, Kaufman County, Lubbock County, Brazos County, City of Denton, City of Louisville, City of Grand Prairie, City of Ennis, and the town of Flower Mound, among other municipalities. In other words, his attention cannot be working only for Brazos County. Honestly, I believe that the job he's been doing is completely redundant with the job descriptions we have for current employees. But I'm willing to play devil's advocate for a minute and consider that if the current employees are so overwhelmed that we need somebody else to do this job, I'd like to channel my inner Fred Brown and ask the court, why are we not hiring somebody local? If it's a temporary, hire a local consultant. Even better, if we need a new employee, hire a Brazos County employee that works for Road and Bridge. For the proposed amount of this contract, which is $180,000 a year, that's $40,000 more than what our current engineer who runs Road and Bridge makes. We could have someone who works only for us. When I spoke the very first time back in this court in November, I mentioned we've all made a mistake of buying something being sold by a very good salesman. I have a bookshelf full of encyclopedias to prove it. There's no shame in making a mistake and then admitting that you made a mistake. But I did not duplicate my mistake by buying a second set of encyclopedias. Please do not double down on the previous mistake made by previous commissioners. Do not sign this contract, and do allow the current contract to expire in July. Thank you.
Beverly Greenwood.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. You know, I think the question on whether or not this is a contract or proposal that wasn't attached to the agenda item, I think that's an excellent question. I'll bring up again that I spoke about earlier, that in that pseudo contract proposal, it had listed as the program management lead, Mr. Claude Bud Elsom, 34-year Denton County engineer, who passed away before, in December of 2023, before we gave ITS a raise last summer, 2024, from $10,000 a month to $15,000 a month. So there's some real inconsistencies on this contract proposal that wasn't attached to the agenda that I think need to be addressed immediately. Did John Polster ever give the court any estimate of time to get his projects completed? Do we have any time estimate? Is this 20 years? I mean, they say that road years are different than human years and dog years and all that. So what are the road years on this? In July of 2022, when the 7 projects were chosen, did he give an estimated completion time then? And also, did he make the court aware that the projects wouldn't run concurrently? So if we think about what he presented last week, of the 7 projects, he said only 4 were actually in progress. And then he called his next section was coordinated projects or something, but it was basically, he said it's basically future projects. And one of those future projects was Bush-Welborn Interchange. So that's the big one that Judge Peters spoke about on election night, that he was so excited that we could get Bush-Welborn going, and yet now that's on future projects list. And then he had 2 others that were on the future projects list. So of that 7, did we know that they weren't going to run concurrently? So when he made the presentation and said, I can get TxDOT money for these 7. I've got it. I've got the contacts. I can leverage. I can get you all the money for these 7 projects. Did you know that it wasn't going to happen concurrently? So we're going to work on the first 4 for 20 years, and then we'll work on the next 3 after that. How exactly is this going to work? Do we have any estimate how long this project takes? I think somebody else, we've already discussed, have we even evaluated what having a local engineer? We've got a lot of engineers. We have a lot of professionals at the Texas Transportation Institute. We are a wealth of knowledge in this community. Dr. Dennis Christensen, that helped Doug Bramwell start the RMA, he actually basically built the HOV system in Houston. He lives here. Why are we getting a consultant from Denton County to help us run highway projects? I don't understand this. And then let's think about if you were here last week, when they talked about the different projects that were going on, there were 4 different projects. And Mr. Polster invited the people that were working on the projects to stand up. 4 projects. 3 of the projects, 1 person stood up each, an engineering person from each of those projects. On the Inner East Loop, do you want to know how many people were here that stood up? There were 7 or 8. They had 7 or 8 representatives here for the Inner East Loop last week.
You're getting outside the scope of the agenda item.
And so, when this comes to the contract, how are we managing these 7 projects concurrently? And which one is taking priority? And how is he prioritizing us over all the other counties? Thank you.
Jody Quimby.
experience with John Bolster.
You have not been recognized by the court.
I'm talking.
We're in session.
Good morning. I'm Jody Quimby, 4686 River Garden Court. I'm not in the pathway of the behemoth, but I would like to make some comments here on item number 9. And to start off, I oppose approval of the renewal of the Innovative Transportation Services contract for several reasons. And first of all, you probably know that lobbying is an activity with the objective of influencing government entities to favor or enable some issue, project, or legislation. That goes on all the time. Fat cats pay for that a lot. You know, they get a lot of favoritism because they pay a lot for lobbying. Innovative Transportation Solutions has commented that their duties include actions that actually constitute lobbying. Okay? I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So this is the act of using one taxpayer's money to favor another taxpayer, organization, or powerful corporation. In this county, it's favoring one taxpayer over another. That's fundamentally wrong. It's dishonorable. And I would also remind you that the Republican Party of Texas has 8 priority items that are legislative priorities. One of those items is to ban taxpayer-funded lobbying, and that's what this is, okay? That's just one item that I object to in the ITS contract. It's your job to administer the business of Brazos County, as the previous speaker talked about. If you do not have sufficient employees to do this work that ITS says they're doing, then you need to think about getting some employees to help you. Another item is the ITS agreement indicates that it will review and recommend approval of payments for work on the project. That's not a reasonable thing for you to pay another layer of management to do when you have people in-house to do that kind of thing. Or you could even do that yourself, you know. You're paid a nice salary to perform for the county. So it's just not reasonable. And not only that, but you've already hired an engineering company, a professional services company, to submit payments to you. And so I wonder if you even trust that company to submit a legitimate pay request. That's what this sort of indicates. You're looking for white gloves, you know. So the other major thing that I object to is this 5-year extension. Just the idea of extending this contract for 5 years, that's conveniently past next year's election, okay? And I find that very suspect, and I wonder what the logic was behind that and who birthed that idea. So elections are next year, and if this 5-year extension is granted, then you've tied the hands of any new people who are on the commission. And I think that's wrong. So for what I've said about lobbying and double dipping on work required by this contract with ITS and this 5-year deal, those are sufficient to just cancel the contract.
Adam Perdue.
So, I mean, a lot of our experience with John Polster is relevant to whether or not we should continue to employ John Polster, despite whether or not it's directly related to the current item, because it actually is. So that's what, this is my field. I have a PhD in urban economics. I have a Master of Arts in applied microeconomics. I have a civil engineering transportation engineer, formerly EIT, all this kind of stuff. and this is not to say that I'm oh so smart, although I don't think I'm a dummy like that guy from UNT, but that it's my field. And so most of this, what's been going on, is just, I'm not afraid to apply the normal common sense that all the rest of you are feeling when these people talk to you, right? You know, when they tell us that this big loop is a bypass, right? The loops, and when the loops are going to divert traffic when nobody lives outside of them. Preserving corridors, just a backwards way of saying that we're going to steal people's land, right? Super freeway is not needed for north-south connectivity. All of these kind of nonsense, we all know, is not common sense. And we all, when we watched Polster's speech last week, your common sense had to be ringing. What is Polster actually doing? Right? So like Mr. Bond said, he's coordinating people. That's the point of the MPO. That's Dan Rudge. Right? He's overseeing contracts. That's County Road and Bridge. Right? He's talking to engineers. Is TxDOT not going to work with the county? That's a whole different issue, and we need to be talking to our state representatives. What does Polster actually do? So that's what he spent, like Mr. Greenwood said. He spent his whole speech last time just reliving past glory days, talking about the trip bond. What is he doing now? He's not an engineer. The engineering contracts have been let. What is his role now? Right? Why are we continuing his contracts, right? So last year, unfortunately, I wasn't informed yet, transparency and all that. But last year, right, Judge Peters said the real work is beginning, right? 22. In 22, he said the real work is beginning. But once the contracts have been let, there's really not any role for a consultant to organize all the letting of the contracts, right? And we've heard that in his speech. What is he actually doing? Ask him specifically what is he doing. He's not an engineer. He claims to not be a lobbyist, right? But other gentleman, whose name I don't recall, right? He's lobbying, right? And so why is he so insistent that he's not a lobbyist when, how is he bringing all this money? How is he bringing all this money from TxDOT to Brazos County when he's also doing it for Denton County, Collin County, Kaufman County, Rockwall County, City of Louisville or something, right? Somebody just listed them all, right? City of Lubbock. TxDOT money doesn't have any money. He can't be bringing the money to every county at once, right? So he's just playing us for fools. What is he actually doing? Get him to come in here and present again and make him be specific. What does he actually do? And why would that not happen anyways? TxDOT's going to work with us. We have an MPO already that's aligned this project, right? It's just duplicative spending that he is not with. What is he actually doing? That's what I ask you guys to do before you vote on this contract. Find out specifically what he does and ask yourselves and ask him why that wouldn't happen anyways. TxDOT is going to work with the county, right? The MPO is going to crayon a bunch of lines for TxDOT and everybody else to work on, right? The engineers know what they're doing, right? A lot of people are pissed they quit duty. I'm not, right? They're just doing their job. They're perfectly good engineers. They don't need to be overseen by a guy who's not an engineer. I mean, but anyway, so that's my request here is to get specific. Make him tell you specifically what is he actually doing, and ask yourself when he answers that question, why wouldn't that happen anyways?
Kyle Greenwood.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm not as educated as Adam. I'm not a PhD. But in my professional life, for the last 20 years, I've been dealing with government contracts. And when we were in war, 5-year, multi-year IDIQ contracts were common procedure. It was deemed as necessary to expedite services and products into the field to protect people's lives. Once that changed and we were no longer at war, the federal government decided, hey, you know what, we're not going to do any more of those 5-year contracts because that's irresponsible to do that. What you're considering now is essentially a non-competitive, no-bid contract to ITS, which would be irresponsible to do if you haven't considered anybody else, because surely this is a big state and this is a city full of smart people. There's got to be somebody else who might be interested in submitting a proposal who has the qualifications. Last RFQ was 5 years ago. A lot of things changed in the last 5 years. So I have a question, and maybe Mr. Went could respond to this. Was an RFQ posted? Have we evaluated anybody else? I know several firms here in town full of engineers that could potentially do this kind of work. I realize a lot of these things already been said, but I want to restate them again because I think they bear repeating. Also, what happens, there was a price increase last summer because maybe more work was happening. What happens when that work slows down? Do we get a price decrease? Okay. The contract extension you're considering is a 5-year contract with 3 additional option years. Okay, so if we're going to commit to essentially 8 years, do we get a price break, like economies of scale? Since you're going to guarantee me work for 8 years, I'm going to reduce the rate? And is there any guarantees that the price isn't going to go up 6 months from now? Mr. Polster is on record as having supported the bond, the PAC that supported the TRIP bond. Is it appropriate for the county to be involved with somebody who supported a PAC that published this kind of misinformation? Do we really want to be involved in business with somebody like that? And then finally, my last question is, are there any other changes to the contract? Such as, has the termination clause going to remain in there, or has that been removed? Because when the court changes in the next election cycle, we would like the next court to be able to terminate the contract. You may not be aware of this, but there is a petition effort underway to terminate Mr. Polster's contract. And that is ongoing, and that will be presented soon. Thank you.
Well, we've had discussion and feedback, and we've had it moved and second to approve the item number 9. All in favor?
Do we have staff that want to share information, some of the questions asked? Or even better yet, there were a lot of...
And I'm going to tell the court as chief of staff and a legal officer for the court, for the county, I just point out that this is an amendment to an existing contract to extend it out for 5 years with 1-year renewals. I believe Profina Benjeri is in here. She's the county engineer. She's the one that really works the closest with ITS in regards to these projects. She can tell you the value that ITS brings to them, and the fact that I've been previously told multiple times by multiple individuals inside the county that these projects cannot be managed by staff currently inside the county.
When you say it's a 5-year contract with 1-year renewals, will you explain what that means?
So the original contract was a 5-year term. So for an additional 3 years with option, or 2-year term with 3-year options to renew. So a total of 5 years. So this allows the court to do additional 5 renewals for 1 year each.
So a year from now, the court would be asked to renew?
Correct.
Good morning, Commissioners. Prathana Banerjee, County Engineer. Hi, East Texas accent, so bear with me. I'm here to express my professional support for Innovative Transportation Solutions, or ITS, and the essential role they play in managing the TRIP 22 bond program for Brazos County. There has been public concern and heightened attention around the Inner East Loop project, and I respect the importance of public engagement in all infrastructure efforts. However, it is important to remember that this project represents just one part of a much broader program. Of the $100 million bond program in voter-approved bond funds, approximately $13 million is allocated for the Inner East Loop, $20 million is designated for county roads, and the remaining $67 million is committed for on-system TxDOT projects. Those are the state projects that have been identified by the Bryan-College Station Metropolitan Planning Organization. These on-system projects are subject to detailed regulatory requirements, including NEPA environmental clearance and TxDOT schematic design development. These are not required by our typical county road projects, and the county does not have internal processes or staff experience to manage them independently. This is why ITS is a critical partner. Barry Hurd and Brenda Calloway, who lead ITS's work, are both former long-time TxDOT professionals with deep experience in these processes. They ensure that our projects are all meet necessary state and federal standards while staying on track and within budget. As your county engineer, I work with ITS several times a week and often multiple times a day. Their responsiveness, attention to detail, and expertise allow us to confidently move forward with complex projects that would otherwise be beyond our capacity to manage. Their ability to coordinate with TxDOT and navigate the regulatory framework is not something that we can replicate in-house. If the county were to cancel ITS's contract, we would be placing $67 million worth of on-system projects at risk. I am not counting $13 million for Inner East Loop. These are vital regional infrastructure improvements, and any disruption in project management at this stage could result in costly delays or potential project losses. Replacing ITS would not only be difficult, but it could set us back months or even years. While individual projects may draw differing levels of public interest or concern, I encourage the court to take a holistic view of ITS's contributions. They are a key part in our ability to deliver the TRIP 22 bond program successfully, and I believe continued partnership with them is in the best interest of the county and our taxpayers. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I work very closely with them. Like I said, I work with them every week, sometimes multiple times a day. Barry Hurd and Brenda Calloway are extremely professional, and they are very professional engineers that I have come across. So I, in my mind, have no doubt that the county, and I urge you to renew the contract, please.
So you're working with a team of people. It's not
Yes.
just John Polster.
In fact, John Polster, we almost don't even see him. He is their CEO, like has been pointed out, and probably the court is aware. He is not has an engineering, background, but the people who are actually assigned to the county are TxDOT employees, former TxDOT employees. They are engineers, PEs. They have extensive professional experience and long resumes. They are excellent at what they do. I really, truly believe that. And I've interacted, like I said, I interact with them very, very often.
Okay.
So it's my professional opinion that we should absolutely renew this contract.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So-
Ed, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
To clarify, Vita, I just want to make sure for everyone's understanding, if the contract is renewed today, a year from now, it could not be renewed.
Correct.
Okay.
So based on that information, it has been moved and second that we approve this motion, this agenda item. So I guess at this point, if we've had discussion, that we take a vote.
I think based on, the count, I'm sorry, we're still in
Still discussion, okay.
concession, yeah. Very good points made today, and the court listens to these points. Talking with Parthana and her team, talking with purchasing, they're meeting with ITS regularly, and it's not John Polster, it's a team of people that Polster's group employs. So based on that, you know, I think that's good to remember. If you remember from John's presentation last week, he did not come to Brazos County wanting to sell his services. Brazos County approached him, and that's what brought him here. Wait, did I just say that wrong? I'm sorry. Brazos County did not, approached him. He did not come here to sell his services. Brazos County sought out John. The RFQ 5 years ago, 2 responded. John was by far, shouldn't say John, ITS was by far the most qualified. If we renew this today, in a year, it'll be revisited for renewal again, and it may, you know, depending on our projects moving forward and how that looks, the court will decide to renew or not renew that a year from now. I'm just afraid of switching horses right in the middle of what we're doing and what ITS is performing for us. And I'm afraid that, like the county engineer who meets with him nearly daily, sometimes several times a day, her professional opinion is that that would be detrimental to our projects. It's been said over and over again that east-west projects are important, and several of the projects on this bond are east-west projects. I want to see those come through to fruition sooner than later, and any relationships or pool that we can have working with TxDOT to get those done, I think makes the county transportation move that much better. Just my thoughts.
I stand firm in my decision to vote against this, and I vote against it because there's no transparency for me, and I'm sitting up here. I'm on the court. I've never read a contract. I've never gotten a report from Polster or anybody else in his employ since I've been on the court since January. So I don't do business like that, and I won't do business like that, and I'll vote against it because of that.
Well, and
So-
certainly that's if you haven't requested for staff to share the contract with you or meet with you to go over the contract.
That shouldn't be my obligation.
Let me state that another way.
Yeah, right.
Let me state that another way.
Yeah.
If you have not been satisfied that you've been able to look at the contract and see everything in it,
Right.
then we should probably not do anything until every member of the court feels like they've looked at the contract, felt comfortable about it. So I motion to table it.
I'll
so
second.
that and until you are able to go over the contract and have your questions answered, and we could bring it back and do that. It's like earlier, Fred, you know, when you and Bentley had, I forget the issue, but y'all weren't satisfied, you had seen something, we tabled it and brought it back. Maybe we could do that here. Motion to table.
Okay. So how do I rescind the initial amendment, the initial approval of the motion? So do I?
You had a motion and a second,
Second.
which it made us able to discuss.
Yeah, right.
Now we have a motion for tabling it, and so we would need a second of that motion
Okay.
if we're going to table it.
Parliamentarian, I'm going to ask Ms. Zamboni. How do I table the motion?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, help me out.
So if you have to take action on the first, and if you don't vote, it fails. And so therefore, you can go to the next motion to table in order to.
So we vote on the initial motion and, I'm sorry, I'm
Correct.
not,
Yeah.
So you would vote on item 9 initial, and then motion to
we have
table.
a motion
Well,
and a second.
so first off, the court isn't strict adherence of Roberts.
Okay.
So in my opinion, and I'll double check with our Assistant General Counsel, that it may be appropriate to go ahead and act on the motion to table.
Okay,
Since-
okay. So,
So motion to table.
motion to table. Second.
Okay. So we have a motion to table, now we vote, okay.
So all in favor?
Aye. All against?
All opposed?
Okay.
So it has been moved and it has been approved to table item 9. I don't know where to go from here. I'm sorry.
Go on to the next.
Okay, so then
next
let's go to
agenda
item 10. Approval of assignment of contract number 24-109, pallet pickup from Tritex Grass to Patton Seed Company LLC, doing business as Super Sod.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
I want to ask Charles to come up here. Sorry, Charles, I thought I was going to get by for a whole session without having to call you, and I apologize. I get the impression that this is an amendment to the original contract. Is that correct?
It is, it's an amendment, but it's essentially an assignment. The company was sold or merged or what have you, created a new name. So contractually, we're just trying to correct our records to make sure that it accurately reflects the name of the company.
Okay.
So it's still a new same business, just doing business as under a new name?
As I understand it, yes, ma'am.
And did you have multiple companies try to bid for this, or?
We bid this out. We do not receive a lot of competition for that solicitation.
Well, the reason I asked that, I did a little research yesterday, made some phone calls, and went on the internet and you know, found that the going price for these pallets is somewhere between 50 cents and $4 per pallet. And I was just curious why we picked the lowest number with this company, 50 cents per pallet. I know it's plus for us because they're going to come in and take the pallets away, but I just wondered why we got stuck on that lowest price for the pallet, 50 cents.
That's the number that they proposed in their bid, Commissioner.
And nobody else bid any more?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second and discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Item 11, approval of agreement number 25-24 for Imagine Learning LLC for Brazos approval, for Brazos County Juvenile Curriculum Software.
Commissioner Watson, can we repeat the contract number for that?
I'm sorry, where am I? Number 11. Approval of agreement 25-124 for Imagine Learning LLC for Brazos County Juvenile Curriculum Software.
Move for approval?
Second.
Is, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Item 12, approval of no award of RFQ number CIP 255529, architect for Ashford Hills Warehouse and Office Suites.
Move approval.
Second?
Second, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Item 13, approval of no award for RFQ number CIP 25562, construction manager at risk for Ashford Hills Warehouse and Office Suites.
Move for approval?
Second.
Discussion?
I'm glad to see both of these go away because if you remember, when it came up the first time, we were going to spend $900,000 to,
700,000.
well, the total with both of these was almost $900,000, and we were going to have plans done for a warehouse and office space that we hadn't even put in the budget if we can afford them or not. So it made no sense to me why we should spend $900,000 up front for something that we don't even know if we can afford. So I'm glad to see both of these are approval of no award. Yes, sir.
Ed Bull, Chief of Staff, Legal Officer. Commissioners, I hope that in the notes that you saw notated as to why this was being no awarded at this time. Mm-hmm. There are two other vital projects that need to be moved on that are actually in the ready stages, so to speak. And one is the remodel of this building as well as the road and bridge building. That's not to say that there is a huge need for a central receiving, given the fact of how we operate. Ultimately, I don't know what it's going to be represented for next year's budget, asking for the total amount. If the court approves it, great, that will give further direction. I know that there wasn't direction at the time that this was initially tabled, but I guess it was clear at this point that it wasn't ready to go forward. Knowing that there was only partial funding granted for this project, but we hope to present enough information to show you, because price-wise, it may come back higher, Commissioner. We don't know. But ultimately, if the court can be shown that there is the overwhelming need, that may offset what the price is.
Thank you. So, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Number 14, approval of the final plat of Wixon Ridge subdivision lots 18R and 19R, Block 3, being a replat of lots 18 and 19, Block 3, Moses A. Foster League Survey, Abstract 16, City of Bryan, ETJ, Brazos County, Texas, site located in Precinct 2.
Move for approval.
Second.
So, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Item 15, approval of the final plat of Oak Hill subdivision lots 22R and 23R, being a replat of lots 21, 22, 23, and 11.56 acres, Stephen Jones League Survey, Abstract number 27, City of College Station, ETJ, Brazos County, site located in Precinct 4. And on that one, I will move for approval. But we do have some comments requested.
Okay.
So it would be up for discussion. What hadn't been moved, I'd move for approval.
Oh, for purposes of
Yeah, since it's in my
discussion.
precinct, yeah.
For purposes of discussion, sure, I'll second.
Okay, so comment.
I tell you what, I cannot get excited for the county to supersede deed restrictions for a subdivision. So I am, so I'll be voting against this.
Well, and if I remember correctly, we don't, remind me, I'm sorry, these are some, I have some notes here. Okay, anyway, let's go to comments. Russ, and I can't pronounce, Kotwar? Is that an L? Okay, sorry. Kotwal, excuse me, okay.
Mr. Condola, Ms. Watson, Mr. Brown. So thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. My name is Russ Coatwall. I am the son of a military veteran. My father volunteered and served in the Army for 24 years. As a result, I moved every few years and did not have a place that I called home. I initially came to Brazos County in 1981 to attend school at Texas A&M University. I made lifelong friends here, met my wife here. My first child was born here. However, following graduation, I volunteered for the military. I subsequently served in the Army for more than 29 years. As a result, I moved every few years, I deployed a lot, and I did not have a place that I called home. As I retired from the military, my wife and I decided to return to Brazos County and make this place our home. I'm a resident of Precinct 4. I am the property owner of lots 32, 33, and 34 within the Oak Hills subdivision. I'm a member of the Oak Hills Subdivision Architectural Control Committee. My property is on the corner of Lightsey Lane and River Road. My property is down Lightsey Lane from lot 23, owned by Temple resident Mr. J.C. Wall, which is the subject of today's request for replat. The Oak Hills subdivision is a rural subdivision in extraterritorial jurisdiction with covenants, conditions, and deed restrictions that are on file with Brazos County as submitted to the Brazos County Clerk, including multiple documents from 1959 through 2020. Prior to requesting Brazos County approval for replat of Lot 23, Mr. Wall should have submitted a request for replat through the Oak Hills subdivision and the City of College Station. In accordance with our deed restrictions to include our 2020 amendment, paragraph 1.02 and 1.03, no lot shall be subdivided, replatted, or amended so as to create a new or additional lot or tract based on the configuration, use, or ownership. If an owner desires to realign the configuration of a lot, written approval must be obtained from the Oak Hills Subdivision Architectural Control Committee. Mr. Wall has not requested or received approval. As a property owner in the Oak Hills subdivision, Mr. Wall has a responsibility and obligation to adhere to the deed restrictions that have been written and agreed to by the Oak Hills subdivision property owners. A certified letter was sent and received by Mr. Wall reminding him of his responsibility and obligation. He did not respond. Respectfully, I request that the Brazos County Commissioners Court disapprove the application to replat Lot 23 in the Oak Hills subdivision, or at a minimum, please table this issue pending further investigation. On behalf of the residents of Oak Hills subdivision, I thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration of this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Sandra Baxter.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Sandra Baxter, and I'm a resident of Brazos County Precinct 4. I'm a member of the Oak Hills Subdivision Architectural Control Committee and the property owner at 9121 Lightsey Lane, lot number 24, and the life trust owner of 9159 Lightsey Lane, lot number 25. The property is adjacent to lot 23 that is the subject of today's request for replat. The Oak Hill subdivision is a rural subdivision in Precinct 4 with deed restrictions in place, indicating that no lot shall be subdivided, replatted, or amended so as to create a new or additional lot or tract based on the configuration, use, or ownership. On April 2025, our neighborhood became aware of violation of this deed restriction on Lot 23 when large construction equipment was moved onto the property to clear the natural habitat of trees that had previously been on the lot. The Architectural Committee convened, prepared a certified cease and desist letter, which was delivered to Mr. Wall on May 5th and 9th at his 2 addresses on record. This letter was sent to a resident of Temple, Texas, not a Brazos County Precinct 4, requesting that no more action be taken on this lot until review of the plans could be made by the Architectural Control Committee. To date, we have received no response from Mr. Wall, and the presence of this replat request indicates that Mr. Wall has no intention to submit a request for review to the Architectural Control Committee and no intent to abide by the deed restrictions of the Oak Hill subdivision, and instead intends to convert a portion of Lot 23 from residential use into commercial use by assimilating lots 23 into lots 21 and 22, which is a violation of the existing deed restrictions. I come before this meeting of the Brazos County Commissioner Court to request denial of the application to replat Lot 23 to prevent its assimilation with lots 21 and 22, and to honor and protect the Oak Hills deed restrictions for the residents of the Oak Hills subdivision in Precinct 4 of Brazos County. Thank you.
Okay. Lisa Holland.
I was only made aware of this last night late, so I just have a couple of comments and didn't have time to really prepare anything. But I looked at the application that was submitted by, I guess, Mr. Walls, and he has an RV park, which, according to the Brazos County records, is a Class B commercial operation. But he submitted this plat application as a residential replat. It's definitely commercial. I believe it even fits under your county manufactured housing regulations as manufactured housing. So I don't think this request is appropriate or drafted correctly, and it should be rejected. I have an additional concern just in reviewing everything. The spray field for their septic system, we all have septics. There is no city or county sewer facilities available. And their spray field is smaller than the one on my parents' 9 acres. So I don't see how this expansion of this RV park can possibly be a good thing. I think there have even been complaints about the health and safety and spreading of their sewage onto other lots. So I don't think this has been well considered. It poses a lot more concerns that haven't been explored and can't be presented to you today. But I would request that you reject it because it has not been submitted properly.
Mason Newton.
Good morning. My name is Mason Newton. I'm a resident of the Oak Hill Subdivision in Precinct 4. I've been there since 1981, and I've also served as a administrator of our subdivision as a secretary, and I was involved in the review and modification of our deed restrictions. It was originally made in 1959 by the original makers of that subdivision. It was reviewed again in 2010, modified slightly. In 2020, I modified it, and with the help of an attorney, to make sure that there any confusion about if you can or cannot divide a lot. And then again, it's reiterated that you cannot reconsider or redefine a lot. The covenants also state that a residential lot cannot be turned into a commercial lot, which is what this request is for. I'm here because I'm a member of that subdivision, and I'm afraid that if we open that door, it's going to affect other places in that subdivision. There's a lot next to mine that's vacant. If you open that door, I'm afraid that I'm going to have a convenience store or a washateria next to my house. And I do not want that. I appreciate your time and consideration for this matter.
Thank you. Kathy, Benz. Kathy.
Good morning. I just have a quick question. Is it within the authority of this court to supersede a deed restriction?
We'll have she'll answer that question.
Do you have any more questions?
I may have more
Okay.
follow-up
Well,
questions.
we need you to ask your questions, and then we'll
Well,
answer.
I may have follow-up questions. Am I being denied that opportunity?
You can ask as many questions as you want in a 4-minute time. and
Okay.
then it will
So
be-
I'll just stand here and wait and see
No,
if I
and
have
then
any.
we will answer them after you sit down.
Okay, well, I don't know what my follow-up questions might be until I hear her answer. So you're denying me that right?
No, I'm not denying you, but if.
Well, then when can I ask a follow-up question?
You can come back next week.
That's not proper format according to the rules of the court.
It is, actually.
It is not, and the tradition has been that we've been allowed to ask follow-up questions. If you go back and look, we've had conversations at this podium for...
That's correct. And then things changed.
When?
And within the last few months.
Has it
and
been
we
voted
have-
on by court to change the courtroom rules?
The courtroom rules are as they are. And it doesn't say that, it says that you can get up and say comments before an agenda item. It doesn't say that you get to stay up here for 8 minutes during
No.
ask and answer questions, okay? So we ask, I'm asking nicely, that you ask your questions, everything that you need, that you think that you will need to ask, and then sit down and they will be answered.
Okay, well, I think the new policy of the court to not allow us to ask follow-up questions should be put into formal writing in the courtroom rules. Because if I have to sit down and shut up, it should be in the rules. I don't know what my follow-up questions are till I hear her answer. But if the court is not authorized to supersede a deed, then I would suggest this is setting a new precedent that you need to take ownership of.
So there were a couple of things that I would like to address. First, of the application form. The application is actually accurate when they say that it's residential, because as of today, and what they are doing is combining pieces of property that are designated residential. Secondly, there are no zoning. There are no. Can I finish? There are no zoning restrictions in the county. The city decides if a piece of property is going to be commercial or residential or what their use is. There is no zoning restriction in the county. A piece of property can be used for whatever the property owner decides, the use has to be. That is superseded, however, by deed restrictions that has been talked at length in this case. The issue here is that the county's requirements do not cover deed restrictions. Deed restrictions are employed by active HOAs, and as has been pointed out by several of the property owners and the HOA members, that it's a civil matter between the property owner and the in this case, Mr. Wall, who's a developer. And so it's a civil matter between them. The county cannot, be a legal counsel to either or. What this replat that you see today has already been approved by the city of College Station because it's in their ETJ. And what we did is we only went through our requirements according to the county's regulation requirements, which, like I said, do not cover deed restrictions. We cannot look at what deed restrictions are and see if people are meeting that criteria or not. Another one pointer that I would like to make is 2 years back, Mr. Wall in this same subdivision has already created a replat and cut out a piece of property that has been presented here, that it's an RV park today. And so we don't know really what his plan is with this bigger replat that he's planning. Again, that's not part of our application and the review that we performed with this particular replat. It is again, it's just I have gone through and made sure all the requirements for the replat are, met with whatever is mentioned in our regulations. It's ultimately up to the court, really, if you want to, decide how you would to table or proceed or approve. That's a decision that the court makes. But as your county engineer, I have made sure that all the requirements according to the county's regulations have been met. The city has also approved this replat already. City of College Station's Planning and Zoning has already approved this plat. The Health Department of Brazos County has also approved this plat. They have looked at it, they have approved it. So all the requirements for a replat have been met. Now, like I said, deed restrictions are not something that we can really, employ or we, oversee. That's a decision that is up to the court on how they want to decide. But
So
yeah.
So I was going to say, so the fact that they have begun some sort of a legal cease and desist legally, that is for the residents to do per their HOA group, but the county cannot be a party to that because we have no zoning. So
It's a civil matter between Mr. Wall and the HOA. It's a civil matter between the two entities to, come to an agreement or whatever and resolve it among them. The county cannot be of any, we are not party to that. And that's why there are deed restrictions everywhere in the county. Some of them are so old that they are defunct. There are HOAs that are defunct and they're not been in practice, and so people go ahead and do things which are opposite to what is probably written in the deed restrictions. This might not be a case, but like I said, we are only looking at regulations that are related to county requirements, and this replat meets all those regulations. So anything outside of that, that's not something I can really comment on or provide an opinion on, really.
Commissioner Watson, if you would like to recognize Ms. Vance, you may or you don't have to. Okay.
You can ask your question.
I have heard the explanation for it, but since it's coming to this court to approve it, and you've heard that there is a legal matter waiting for the developer to respond, I would suggest that the court puts a hold on this until that developer meets the requirements of the deed restrictions of that development that is an active home association.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to stand firm in the fact that I'm voting against it because I don't think it's our responsibility as a county to supersede a subdivision's deed restrictions. So I am totally against approving this, period.
Okay, since I allowed Kathy, I'll allow you another question.
Okay, do I need to walk over there?
Yes, you do. I hope I'm not setting a bad precedent.
No, you're doing good.
I'm confused by 2 points in her explanation, because if the county can't determine residential and commercial, and it doesn't exist in the county, it exists on your platform, plat application form. It clearly says residential or commercial. What does this concern? It also has a spot for the RV park designation, because I believe in your RV, manufactured housing regulations, RVs that you live in and that are resident in a space qualify under that. So if it has been considered, I don't know why you have these extra boxes. And it's definitely going to be part of an existing permit that I guess the county granted on the lot 21 and 22 existing complying with the deed restrictions RV park, because those were designated commercial in our deed restrictions. Also, the picture he presented on his plat request definitely joins the half of the lot he's wanting to replat into the commercial section. So I'm not sure if it's a replat or an amendment, since it is going to change the nature of that property as it's been designated, and as your forms support that it can be either. So I mean, it's just a lot of unanswered questions, and I don't understand your forms, the regulations, or how everything has been approved by everybody else with these questions open.
She can answer.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Can I see your?
Speak a little closer into the mic.
Yeah, no. So the thing is, yes, absolutely right. Right. No, so the thing is that these various application purposes, like I explained, in a county, a piece of property is not designated as commercial or residential. When they come to our office, we make this distinction because we have a fee structure that makes distinction between what you're trying to do. So the same piece of property can be a residential project, and at the a few years later, say somebody wants to use it for commercial purposes. They come to our office with the same application form and just click on the commercial, because that decides the fee structure. The piece of property itself is not designated as commercial or residential or any of the other designations. It's more so for fee calculation, really. This is not designated as an manufactured home rental property right now, because what they are trying to do with this application is that they are trying to actually converge a few pieces of property into one and change the lot lines. That's a replat. When they actually, again, this is a guess, but when they actually do a project of whatever designation that's supposed to be at that point, they come to our office again and then click that box, and then there's a different review process and a permit process and all of that related to that specific type of project. Right now, what we are trying to put in front of the court for approval is a replat, where they are trying to put lot lines together, and it's a different application. Sorry. No, I'm sorry.
I'd rather take care of the people that live here than do something for somebody that doesn't even live here. So.
Is there, Commissioner Watson, would you like to re-recognize Ms. Holland?
I'd like to vote on this thing so we can all go to the bathroom. It's been a long meeting.
Okay.
Shingalinga.
So there was initially a motion based on the fact that the county doesn't do zoning. So, that's one of the things that outside of the county that people like. So the initial motion that I made, because it's in my precinct, was to approve this, given the information that we now have. And I didn't get a second.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So it appears that the motion failed, and so therefore,
We'll ship this one to the funeral home.
So I guess we need a motion to table, or is this just the motion has failed?
Motion dies for lack of a
Motion
second.
died for lack of a second.
Can we clarify? I believe that Commissioner Condola seconded
Oh,
for
okay.
discussion purposes.
Yeah, oh.
For what?
I did. I seconded it for discussion
yeah, you
purposes,
did.
so let's vote.
Yeah. So call the question.
Call the question. All in favor?
You can rescind that motion. You made the motion.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
Let's vote. Let's vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Say
I'm
aye.
sorry,
No, I was just to say, go ahead and vote.
all in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Y'all have tested a newbie today. Anyway, number 16, consider to take action on the Atmos Energy Corporation utility permit to install 1,375 feet of 2-inch HDPE poly pipeline within the right-of-way of Steel Store Road to replace existing steel natural gas pipeline. Project also includes 3 road bores of Steel Store Road, site located in Precinct 4. I move approval.
Second.
Discussion?
No, I'm in favor of this. I like this one.
Having none, all in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none, I should say. Opposed? Motion is approved. Item 17, tax refund applications.
Move for approval A and B.
Second.
All, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Item 18, budget amendments, FY 25-24, budget amendments 33.01-33-04. All in favor? Discussion?
Approval.
Second.
Okay, that's it. Discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 19, personnel change of status.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Item 20, payment of claims. Approval of payment of claims, A, 820-9988 through 821-0074, B, 920-4543-9204-614.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. So item number 21, convening of executive session. We will not have that, have executive session today.
Yay.
Item number 22, consider possible action items for executive session. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 22, acknowledgement of FY 24-25 budget to actuals by fund as of May 28th, 2025. Acknowledgement of FY 2024-2025 contingency budget to actual by fund as of May 28th, 2025. And if we may, do we have the juvenile director's report for detention? Hi, Linda.
Good afternoon, Judge and Commissioners. We have 25 juveniles in detention,
14 males, 11 females, and 33 on electronic monitor.
Thank you. Sheriff's Department. Let's keep this moving so we can go home.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Our numbers as of this morning, our total is 736, 636 males and 100 females with 50 on electronic monitors.
So did you say 600 males? 636
636
You're
males.
right, I thought so. But you said 100 females, I do the math. Okay. And how many on electronic?
50.
50? Thank you. All right, item 26, announcement of interest items and possible future agenda topics.
With regard to the loss of Sheriff Hermes in Burleson County, I just wanted to send our prayers and our thoughts to that county, to his family, to the men and women of the Burleson County Sheriff's Office.
Anything else? All right. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. Oh, God, that was so, because these issues were so tough.